Welcome to the BNB Investing Podcast for real estate investors. Fix and flippers and realtors exploring investment options with Airbnbs and short-term rentals through acquisition, leasing, or management to generate consistent monthly revenue. Join us for a chat with experienced and successful short-term rental investors to hear their story of how they got started and created wealth by building scalable businesses. We also explore various service providers and lenders that help make our businesses more efficient and maximize revenue in this awesome sharing economy. Welcome your host, Rich Munroe.
Hey everyone, Rich Munroe here with BNB Investing Group. Thanks so much for jumping on again. Just as a reminder, BNB Investing Group helps real estate investors that want to navigate the short-term rental model. Whether you're doing acquisitions to do short-term rentals, whether you're doing the master lease or rental arbitrage strategy, or if you're managing properties for other investors. And so BNB Investing Group helps you navigate through those different strategies depending on which one you want to focus on. We also have a dedicated coaching program that we help clients with as well. And if you're ready to start and build a scalable business and want to learn how to do that, feel free to reach out to me directly for a quick 10-minute call. I'm very pleased to have a good friend of mine, Alexis Sidney, on today. We're going to talk about some of the things that real estate investors struggle with, including myself, and that's tracking your finances and your profitability and kind of keeping up with the best strategies for tax purposes and other things. And so thank you so much, Alexis, for taking the time to spend with us today. And if you could give us a brief introduction.
Awesome. Well, Rich, thank you for having me. And again, I'm excited to be here also. My name is Alexis Sidney, and I am an enrolled agent. I'm licensed to practice before the IRS. I've been in the tax game for almost 20 years now. I know I don't look that old, but I've been doing this for a long time. And one of the things that I love is actually working with real estate investors. It's such intricate game. There's so many ways you can, be in the real estate game. And so that's what I love about it. My business, the 12 firm, we specialize in doing taxes, tax planning. We do accounting, bookkeeping. We also offer CFO and profitability coaching services to real estate investors, where when you're ready to scale and grow your business and take it to that next level and not just be a dealer, but as I say, a business owner in the game, we help you, get all of that stuff together so you'll have clarity. You'll know, what is profitable in your business and how to take it to that next level. So that's what I do. And I'll turn it back over to you, Rich.
Yeah, no, definitely. So those of you that are just jumping on, shoot a quick yes in the comments for us to let us know you can hear us okay. Feel free, as well as we are kind of digging into this, to throw any questions you might have in the comments, and we'll definitely try to handle some of those either as we go or towards the end. I know that a lot of our members that are doing real estate, as you pointed out, there's so many different aspects, right? And so even though my core focus is short-term rentals, we also do rehabs. We also wholesale deals. I also do some private money lending on the transactional side. And so all that has to deal with money. And usually as an investor, a lot of us definitely struggle with the ebbs and flows, right? So when you're doing a rehab, and making sure that you're getting your contractors paid and your draw requests done. The money's great when you sell that property, but there's a whole bunch of time in between there if you don't have your stuff together that you can really kind of get your ends twisted up. And so part of what I'd like to cover today really is how do you guys help with strategically with investors? And the other thing too, whether you're a long-term landlord and you have rental properties, or if you're a short-term rental owner, it's the same thing there. If you're managing other properties, you've got money that you're handling on a monthly basis. And so what's the best way to treat that, or strategically kind of what framework should we put that in?
Yeah, well, that's a great question because I deal with that all the time. And like you just said, there's different types of investment styles. Some people do a mixture, some people just stay in their lane. So as you mentioned with the fix and flips, because that's pretty popular, and I often see a lot of times where, it can turn out good or it can go south real bad and you got a loss. And so some of the things that we do around working with people who do fix and flip properties is one, just helping them for one, analyze the deal when they get it. And so depending on how they're getting the property, some of them use hard money loans, some of them raise money. And so we have to track that to make sure, is this good for you? Is this the way to go? Or some people decide to take all their money and tie it up into the property and they can't do anything. And now they're just kind of stuck. So we help you really strategize all of those components. When we're looking at it, we say, okay, well, what is the exit strategy? I know you got this property to fix and flip, but as you kind of get in, it's like, okay, am I going to do a full fix? Could I do a hotel? Could I just, do something real quick just to get out of it? Or you may have another exit strategy where it's like, I'm going to hold this property because it just may be good for me to do that. But what we're looking at is how long from the time, you say, hey, I got this property locked in to when do you plan to get rid of it or sell it, fix it up, and put it on the market and sell it. But we're looking at all the in-between stuff because that is what matters. We're looking at that rehab budget. We're looking at those holding costs that you have because it matters. And that's taking away, from what you have going on in your profits. And then we're looking at your profit margins, like how profitable is this deal once we get it? But the beauty of it is once you get that profit, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to, manage it? Are you going to take it now and get more properties? Are you going to pay down debt? And so working with myself in the CFO service, such as that, we take the deal from top to the end, we analyze it, and we help you bring clarity and perspective on it. So now you have that game plan and making sure, like, if your goal is to, get all these properties and acquire them, you now have that plan and you have that person accountable helping you get through and making sure that you're in line. And it's different with wholesalers because, they're in, they're out, they get that check. Sometimes it's real good. Sometimes the profit margins are real sucky, but it's a different thing. And all of that just really depends on, the investor, what their buy box is, what they're comfortable with playing in the game with. But as it relates to all of that, analyzing, deal strategy, deal analysis, there's a tax component of it. There's a financial side of it. And what I see a lot of times is investors don't manage, the in-between stuff. They do these properties, they're doing rehabs, they're, all this stuff, but it's not in the financials the right way. And that's where the problem comes because when it's not in the financials the right way, is not 9 times out of 10 going to be on the tax return the right way. And there's going to be some missing stuff there. And it's going to cause you to overpay or underreport. And you don't have a good foot in the game financially when you don't have all the components working together. So that's what I do. I make sure it's all working together from going to the deal, to getting it on the books, to getting it onto the tax returns, to making sure that you're saving money and not overpaying. Because I hear so many investors like, oh my God, I had to pay the IRS $40,000 this year and I didn't want to do it. And so we help, mitigate that, or at least it's not a surprise if you have a tax bill. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, simple things like understanding what your options are. When you do a fix and flip and you sell it, that profit that comes out, depending on what you do end up doing with that profit, will determine how you get taxed on it. And so understanding all the ins and outs of that and kind of what the options are is really good to figure out ahead of time instead of waiting till, it's a week before the end of December and figuring out what you want to do. And so as an example, I mean, you could probably give us a little bit of details on, let's say I'm doing a fix and flip and I've got $80,000 net profit coming back. What is the tax? Is there a benefit for me to roll that into another property before the end of the year? What's kind of the high level option there?
Well, yeah, if you do get another property, that helps you as well. Well, it depends too. Are you going to use that 80,000 of your money to get that property? Because you have to, look at that too. Because if you're borrowing someone else or using raised funds or private funds, it may have an impact on your tax situation.
Hmm.
So definitely, using your funds to acquire another property, there will be some advantages there from you from a tax standpoint, that will be able to help you. So, like I said, it's a different approach to everyone. You do some lending, so there may be some opportunities to kind of change up the investment style if you're getting lump sums, especially as it gets towards the end of the year and it's like, hey, uh, I need to put something in place. So there's different things for you to consider. The playing field is open. It just depends on what you're comfortable doing. But just know that there are options out there for you.
Okay. Well, let's take a step back for a minute and go down to the basics. A lot of our members in the B&B investing group are fairly new to real estate. They may have a W-2 job. They're kind of looking at this as a catapult and kind of venturing into more passive income. And so, let's kind of break down the basics for folks. Obviously, there's a huge advantage of investing in real estate and doing your investments in a legal entity. And so that's really kind of the first step when you get things set up in the beginning. Whether you're doing any of these things, fix and flipping, buying and holding, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, you want to have everything funnel through a legal entity. So do you
Definitely.
have any recommendations or suggestions there?
Well, definitely. I agree with you. You definitely want to have a business set up, an entity set up, one for protection. You don't want anyone coming after you personally or anything. So you always want to establish that layer of protection. And you want to do that also because you're building this business and, this is your foundation. You want to get business bank accounts, and you don't want to be using your personal account because what you're doing is building your history as you go. And as you're growing this business, you want your foundation set up the right way, so that if you do decide, hey, I want to go get a loan or do something, you have your financials in place, you have your business bank account, you look like a company, and people are like, okay, you're serious about this. So definitely, having those key things in place, having an accounting system, whether you're doing it yourself or you're consulting with an accountant that's kind of guiding you. You may not be at a point where you have to hire an accountant to do that, but you definitely want to make the investment to get those things set up. And I say that I can't tell you how many times I get with investors and they're clocking like 500K a year. And I'm like, well, where are your books? I don't have any. And now we have to go clean up all this mess, get HUD statements, put properties on books, and it gets so chaotic. So I always tell people to build good foundation stuff from the start so that
Hmm.
you have good habits from the beginning and you have a rock solid business. I always tell people, investors to talk with a tax consultant who specializes in working with real estate investors. I can't tell you how many times I talk to investors and they're like, oh, my accountant doesn't know nothing about real estate. And I'm like, well, why are you with them? And they're like, oh, well, I have a contract with them. I guess I got to stay. And I'm like, okay. But you want to know someone that understands this game because there's so many different pieces. And if they don't know what you're doing, they don't understand what wholesale is, they don't understand fix and flips or short-term rentals, you can jeopardize what you have going on because they're maybe missing the mark. So definitely speak with someone so that, especially if you have a W-2 job, because you have to look at that piece also. Not only do you have a W-2 job, now you have this real estate investment income coming in on top of that. And you want to make sure that there's no surprises when it's tax time. So you may have to do some tax planning and some strategies so that you're in a good position and you know where you stand, because now you have passive income coming in, and then you have your W-2 job. And you just want to make sure that there are no surprises. So there's people that help you make all of that stuff possible. You just have to make the choice to find it important and know, like, hey, I need to connect with these people from the start so that I'm doing this the right way.
All right, cool. So we are a short-term rental group, and so I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on short-term rentals in terms of strategically what we should be looking for. A lot of us that are setting up a property, we're investing in staging items and getting properties set up in the beginning. A lot of times, if they're 4 and 5 bedroom houses, it could be as much as $35,000 to $45,000. And so, talk to us a little bit about strategically on short-term rentals, specifically what you typically advise and how that can be, basically making sure that we're taking advantage of that through the tax process.
Oh, yeah, definitely. With the short-term rentals, you definitely want to ensure that, for one, you have a property management tool that you're using in addition to your accounting system. That's step one, because you want to be able to manage that property. It's so much moving pieces. It's not like long-term rentals. You're getting that rent every month from the same customer, and it's like clockwork. You have these fluctuations in rental periods, and you want to be able to capture that stuff. So definitely having that tool, that property management tool, that will help you manage, that short-term rental. And especially if you're renting rooms out within, certain properties, that's a whole nother thing. Some of the things that I advise on short-term renters when I'm working with them is we're definitely looking at KPI metrics. Because there are different components, just depending on, where your property is located. If it's in a high vacation area, you may have fluctuations in rent. So in the summer, if you're in Florida near the beach, you may have consistent, revenue coming in from that property. But if it's December, nobody wants to be there, they want to go somewhere else, you may not, get anything. So we definitely look at those type of situations, and we truly, set KPIs in place when we're looking at short-term rentals. Also, some of the things I look at as well is like, what other services can we do? How can we generate as much money as possible from this unit? Whether it's adding special stuff like groceries, or, you're going to have somebody pick them up, or you're going to have a car on property, and you're looking at value adds that you can add to that revenue. We're looking at how are we going to keep, what they said, heads in the bed. How are we going to do that? And so those are the things that we look at. But from a tax perspective, the biggest thing is just really making sure that we're capturing everything, capturing all profits, capturing all those deductions and things that we're doing, those extra services, so that we can ensure that, we're maximizing on our deductions, and that we are setting ourselves up to pay as less in taxes as possible.
Are you able to tell me anything about cost segregation?
Yeah. So cost segs, you can do those on properties, and really just depending on the value of the property, what's there, what's been done as far as any renovations. But cost segs, a lot of people use them as a tax planning tool, because it allows you to go get a property, have some stuff done to it, or may not, but just get a reassessment on the property. And what that does is it boosts your depreciation. So we all know that depreciation is lovely for investors because it helps us to reduce our tax liability. So there are companies that I work with. I don't personally do the cost seg myself, but there are companies that I work with where my clients, when we're like, hey, let's look at getting a cost seg, and we'll do the analysis and the paperwork and see, if it makes sense, because there are some clients of mine where it doesn't. And it's like, okay, well.
So for a lot of us, just to break it down in English for us, what does cost segregation mean? What is it meant to do?
So cost segregation is meant to reassess your property So what it does is it reassesses the property so that you can get increased depreciation based on the value or any addition, like renovations or things done to the property. So let's just say you had a property and it was valued at $100,000, and these are small numbers. And then you did some work and all of this great stuff, and now it's like, okay, well, if I did all this stuff, let me get this property reassessed so that my depreciation can be higher. And the higher the depreciation, the more, that I can write off when it's tax time. So that's the basis of the cost segs.
Okay, that makes sense. Again, with kind of short-term rental specific. So a lot of our members, including me, have a lot of listings, a lot of properties to keep up with. And with a lot of properties comes a lot of bills to pay. And so I know you guys do bookkeeping services as a part of what you do for accounting and taxes and stuff like that. And what are some ways that you can help real estate investors kind of manage that? I mean, we've got, on a daily, weekly basis, I've got a cleaning fee I have to pay to the cleaners. I've got a handyman fee. I've got pest control. I've got all these different things that need to get paid out on multiple different properties that need to be tracked. So that the cost is tracked on each and expense is tracked on each property. So how do you guys help out with that part of the operation?
Yeah. So once it gets to a point where it's like, I don't want to handle this and the Excel spreadsheet is not going to do. What we do is we have a bill pay service where we work with investors. And so what we do is we manage each property and all the vendors associated with that property and all the bills and the utilities. And we get the access and we actually get it set up on a pay system that we use. And so we make sure the money is there, of course. And then we're just responsible for getting it on an automated system where the bills can get paid. If they can't be paid automated, like we're behind the scenes doing that service for you all so that you don't have to manage it. You just get a report like, hey, this property is squared away, and it reflects in the financials. And now like, okay, I'm good. This is what I'm looking at. The bills are paid, the cleaning people are paid, and I'm all set.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, those of you that have one or two or three listings, it's not a huge deal. But when you get up to 50, 60, 70 properties and you're juggling balls and people aren't getting paid, that's not a good thing. You got to you got to be on top of that stuff. And so to have a bookkeeping service that kind of maintains that continuity and makes sure that all that stuff's covered. Not more importantly, not that it's paid, but that it's categorized correctly so that when it comes to tax time, you have all that information in an organized fashion. So
Yeah. And that's
huge.
key because what you do need is a breakdown of each property. And I can't tell you if you don't do it the right way, it's just like all your rental income is in one bucket, all the utilities are in one bucket, and you're not able to truly see the performance of the property. So you definitely want that segregation, class in your system so that you could be able to drill down and to see the true performance of each property.
Right. Now, one of the things that drew me to your organization, Alexis, that I'm pretty impressed with, and I think it's important for investors to kind of embrace, is this concept of profit first. And as a small business owner, whether you're an investor or any small business, making sure that you're in touch with what you're doing on your finances, such that you at any moment know exactly how much profit you're making on a monthly basis, and you're able to ascertain that. And so give us a quick walkthrough on what that's about.
Yeah, so definitely, it is a model, it's a behavior that allows you to gain financial clarity so that you know where your money is going. And the model is set up for you to be able to, one, you have to have clean books. Okay. So we can't just roll the dice and be like, hey, this is where I want my money to go. There's a systematic approach behind how your profit plan is set up based on your business numbers and where you are. So typically, a business that's interested in implementing profit first into their business, you would get your financials, you'll do an analysis of them, and you will look to see where you currently are and where you're spending your money within your business. And from that, a blueprint is created for you to say, okay, well, this is where you are right now. You haven't been paying yourself because most business owners don't. All your money is going towards expenses. You're not saving any money for taxes, all of this stuff. So what we do is in baby steps, we set up the model based on your financials and make sure that you're allocating money to where it needs to go. So they always say profit first. And what you do with that profit is, you reward yourself quarterly. Paying yourself is making sure you're setting aside something to pay yourself, because you work in your business, even if it's going to buy a meal to treat yourself, you need to reward yourself. You want to get in the habit of setting aside money for taxes. But, if you have a bomb.com tax planning person, maybe you don't have to pay any taxes, but at least you set the money aside so you don't have any surprises. And then also operating expenses. Businesses, I'm guilty of it myself. I got shiny object. I see a program. I'm like, I want to sign up for it, or a service. And I have all these subscriptions and I'm like, all my money is going here. So with that, the goal of the model is to reassess what you're spending your money on a quarterly basis to say, is this returning on an investment for you? And if not, let's get rid of it because it's not bringing you money in, versus your essential things that you need to operate your business off of. Those are must-haves, but it just really controls the things that I want versus need. So that's what the model is. And I like to explain it in layman's terms of, you ever open your bank account up and you just have one bank account and you have all this money sitting in one bank account and you're like, gosh, well, what is for me? What do I have to save to pay properties with? What do I have to pay my cleaning fees, or, the plumber, the maintenance man? I really don't know, because it's all in one bank account. So when you implement this model into your business, what it allows you to do is have all your money come into one bank account, and then you move your money to where it needs to be. So now when you open up your banks, you'll have all these separate accounts and you can have clarity and you know what belongs to you, and everything is allocated to the other parts of the business. So
Well, let me switch to your overview here,
yeah.
so folks can see that.
Yeah. And so this model here, and again, Profit First, they have different books for different businesses. And, definitely you can check out the book, read through if you haven't. But this model here is definitely for people who do long-term investment, buy and holds. But again, the model can be set up for short-term rentals. It can be set up for whatever type of investor you are. But the thought behind it was, you have your income account, what I like to call it a holding account, and 100%. So all of your money goes into that account. Nothing comes out of it, nothing at all. It's just a holding account for all of your money. And essentially what you're doing is you'll have your plan in place where it tells you where your money needs to go for the quarter. So if you have 1% on your profit, we're just talking small money here. $1 will go into your profit account. 50% goes to your owner's pay. 10 goes into taxes. 34% goes into OPEX, which is operating expenses, and 5% goes to other people's money. So this is typically how, we like to set up things for investors who buy and hold properties. We also, take money from the income account and make sure that, that principal for those properties, the mortgage, interest, tax, and insurance is accounted for before we start doing, distribution splits of the money, so that, we know that what the real revenue is, because we wouldn't want to take all the income and we know we have mortgages or things to do and we just allocate it and don't account for those necessities to run the business. So like I said, this is just a behavior where we're establishing the behavior for you to be able to manage your money the right way. I tell people, I always get the question of, this is going to be a nightmare for the bookkeeper. And what I like to share is that you're not going in every day moving money around, because if you do it, it will become chaotic. But if you set a rhythm and you do it once a week or bi-weekly or once a month, you don't have all of that movement going crazy. And now your bookkeeper is like, I'm not dealing with this. So, the system has definitely brought financial clarity to lots of investors because, like I said, they're not having all their money in one bank account now. They have clarity. They can see, what's what, where it goes, and they know how much they have for them now because they have an owner's pay account.
Right. So the owner's pay account is meant to be my income as the investor owner of the business, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. And so, like you pointed out, a lot of us just kind of move along and move through deals and transactions without really saying, okay, well, I need to pay myself X. And so I think to have that discipline is huge because, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, we're always kind of looking for the next deal and kind of focused on that versus, enjoying when we have success and being able to, take advantage of that. And so to have, things separated in different accounts, I think is definitely a step in that right direction. So you can clearly understand, doesn't matter which property or which deal, ultimately at the end of each quarter, you'll have, these individual accounts that you'll be able to have a clear direction on what each item is. So I think that's huge.
Definitely. And like I said, with the model, you can add more accounts if you feel like, hey, I need a special account for this. There's no right or wrong, but you just want to make sure that it makes sense and that you work with a professional who can help you manage it and hold you accountable to making sure you're consistent.
Right. Because the other thing that we don't do as investors and entrepreneurs is we don't reserve for taxes, right? We wait till the tax return gets filed and we're like, what? How much do we owe this year? And then we figure out how to pay it. And so to be able to keep that reserve captured throughout the year, I think is definitely huge as well, for sure.
Definitely. No, I agree. And like I said, if you have a tax planning person, there shouldn't be a surprise. You'll know like, hey, I'm going to be able to take that money back at the end of the year, or at least, use some of it. So like you said, it's just there for your reserve and you don't have to go scrambling trying to figure out how you're going to pay the IRS.
Exactly. Definitely. So listen, this has been super informative. Alexis, I really appreciate the time today. For those of you that are interested, Alexis actually does do a consultation charge when she has an initial conversation with prospective clients. For anyone in the B&B investing group, though, she's going to waive that fee. So if you're interested in having a quick call with Alexis to see how she might be able to help your real estate business, send me a messenger request, and I will send you her email information to schedule a call. And we definitely, look forward to kind of learning more about all the things that you can help us with. So again, Alexis, thank you so much. Really appreciate taking your time today with us. And so then, B&B Investing Group, like I mentioned before, we help investors learn how to do short-term rentals and grow a scalable business. So if you're interested in that as well, feel free to reach out to me directly. And Alexis, I'd love to have you back and we can pick a specific topic and do a much deeper dive on what it is that folks want to learn and understand better. And so really appreciate your time today, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for jumping on, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for jumping on the B&B Investing Podcast this week. Please click on the subscribe and like button below. For more trainings, property tours, and content, you can join my B&B Investing Facebook group by clicking below. If you are ready to grow your short-term rental portfolio and maximize your monthly income, you can click on the link below to schedule a quick strategy call with Rich or someone from his team to see how we can help or point you in the right direction. Stay tuned for our next episode and hope to see you on the B&B Investing Group podcast.